Welcome to Beyond the Velvet Rope with Neal Oates Jr., the podcast that takes you on an extraordinary journey into the world of luxury service. Join us as we unlock the secrets, stories, and strategies behind exceptional experiences. From anticipating VIP needs to crafting unforgettable memories, we'll guide you on a path to service excellence in the realm of the affluent. Let's elevate your expertise and redefine the art of world-renowned service. Here's your host, Neal Oates Jr.
We are a few days away from July 4th. There will be cookouts, fireworks, flags, family gatherings, travel plans, sales, music, laughter, celebration, and I love it. There is something powerful about a nation taking time to celebrate independence. There is something meaningful about remembering freedom. There is something important about pausing long enough to recognize that freedom is not cheap. Freedom has always required sacrifice. Freedom has always required courage. Freedom has always required somebody to make a decision that comfort was no longer enough. But here is the question I want to put on the table today. What good is it to celebrate freedom nationally while living bound personally? What good is it to wave a flag about liberty when your own decisions have you locked in a prison you helped build? What good is it to celebrate independence one day a year when fear, debt, poor discipline, toxic relationships, emotional immaturity, procrastination, excuses, and low expectations govern your life the other 364 days? That may sound strong, but you know I'm not here just to entertain you. I'm also here to help you think. And today, I want to challenge every listener under the sound of my voice to ask a deeper question. Am I really free? Not legally, not theoretically, not culturally. I'm talking about personally. Am I free in my thinking? Am I free in my decisions? Am I free in my relationships, in my business, in my money? Am I free in my faith? Am I free in my leadership? Am I free enough to become the person I keep saying I want to become? Because one of the greatest tragedies in life is to have access to freedom, but still live life like a prisoner. And many people are doing exactly that. They are not bound by chains on their wrist. They are bound by chains in their habits. They're not enslaved by someone else's laws. They're enslaved by their own lack of discipline. They're not trapped because opportunity does not exist. They are trapped because opportunity requires a version of them they have refused to become. That is the conversation today. Freedom is more than a holiday. Freedom is a responsibility. And independence is not just something you celebrate, it is something you build. Let's go there. In fact, when I wrote The Affluent Negroes, I was not just writing a book about money. I was writing about a mindset. I was writing about ownership. I was writing about what it takes for people, families, professionals, and communities to stop waiting for permission to start building with intention. And one of the ideas that runs through this book is this: you cannot create a wealthy life with a captive mind. You cannot create a prosperous future while still being loyal to limiting beliefs. You cannot build affluence while outsourcing responsibility. The principles in that book are about wealth, yes, but they are also about freedom. Network strategically is about freedom from isolation. Educate yourself is about freedom from ignorance. Generate wealth through entrepreneurship is about freedom from depending on only one source of income or only one person's approval. Reinforce resilience is about freedom from being destroyed by setbacks. Own it all is about freedom from blame. Excel everywhere is about freedom from mediocrity. Serve others is about freedom from selfishness and small thinking. So when I talk about independence today, I am not only talking about America's independence. I am talking about your independence, your personal declaration, your decision to stop letting fear run your life, your decision to stop letting your past predict your future. Your decision to stop letting broken relationships drain your capacity. Your decision to stop letting laziness hide behind, "I'm tired." Your decision to stop letting procrastination wear the mask of prayer, planning, and preparation. We're talking about your decision to stop being available for bondage just because bondage is familiar. Because here is the truth. A lot of people do not stay bound because they have no options. They stay bound because bondage has become comfortable. They know how to function in dysfunction. They know how to survive in chaos. They know how to complain about the same problem year after year after year. They know how to talk about what they are going to do one day. They know how to blame the market, blame the economy, blame their parents, blame their spouse, their clients, the system, blame their childhoods, blame their business partner or their schedule, blame their lack of support, and then finally, blame the devil. But they have not yet decided to own it all. And I mean all of it. That does not mean everything that happened to you is your fault, but it does mean your future is your responsibility. There is a difference. Some things were done to you, some things were said over you, some things were withheld from you, some doors were closed in your face, some people failed you, some seasons were unfair. I will never make light of that. But at some point, if you're going to be free, truly free, you have to stop handing the keys to your future to people who mishandled your past. At some point, you have to say, that may explain me, but that will not define me. That is independence. Not pretending nothing hurt. Not acting like everything was easy. Not denying reality, but deciding that your next chapter will not be written by the worst person, the worst season, or the worst decision in your previous chapter. That is why the principle own it all matters so much. Ownership is liberation. Blame keeps you stuck because blame always points to power somewhere else. Ownership brings the power back home. When I own my thinking, I can change it. When I own my calendar, I can adjust it. When I own my standards, I can raise them. When I own my relationships, I can evaluate them. When I own my money habits, I can improve them. When I own my business decisions, I can strengthen them. When I own my future, I stop waiting for someone else to rescue me from a life I keep participating in. Once again, that's freedom. And that is also where many people struggle. They say they want independence, but they do not want the responsibility that comes with it. They want financial freedom, but they do not want financial discipline. They want relational peace, but they do not want relational boundaries. They want business growth, but they do not want consistent execution. They want spiritual maturity, but they do not want surrender. They want a better life, but they also want to keep the same patterns. And that is not going to work. You cannot step into a free future while dragging old chains behind you and calling them personality. Some of what people call that's just how I am is actually bondage. Being easily offended is not a personality trait. It may be bondage. Avoiding hard conversations is not wisdom. It may be bondage. Needing everyone to like you is not kindness. You guessed it. It may be bondage. Always needing to prove yourself is not ambition. That's bondage. Overspending to look successful is not excellence. Staying in rooms where you are tolerated but not respected is not loyalty. Being busy but not productive is not responsibility. Always starting but rarely finishing is not creativity. It may be bondage. And the challenge is, bondage does not always look like suffering. Sometimes bondage looks like comfort. Sometimes bondage looks like being liked. Sometimes bondage looks like staying busy. Sometimes it looks like keeping peace. Oftentimes bondage may look like maintaining an image. Sometimes bondage looks like success on the outside while privately knowing you are not free on the inside. That is why this conversation matters, because beyond the velvet rope, the real luxury is not simply having money, status, influence, or access. The real luxury is sovereignty, the ability to govern yourself, the ability to decide with clarity, the ability to walk away from what no longer aligns, your ability to say yes without guilt and no without explanation. the ability to lead your life instead of constantly reacting to it. That is wealth. That is affluence. That is real independence. Let's talk about a few areas where people are still bound. The first area is decisions. A lot of people are not bound by lack of opportunity. They are bound by poor decisions repeated long enough to feel normal. One bad decision may create a problem. Repeated bad decisions create a pattern, and patterns create prisons. You know what I mean. It is not one missed workout. It is a lifestyle of neglect. It is not one bad purchase. It is a habit of emotional spending. It is not one delayed phone call. It is a pattern of avoiding responsibility. It is not one wasted hour. It is a calendar full of low value activity. It is not one moment of fear. It is a lifestyle of shrinking. And then people look up and wonder why their life feels limited. But limitations do not just appear. Many of them are installed through our decisions. Freedom requires better decisions, not perfect decisions, simply better decisions. The decision to get up when comfort says stay down. The decision to tell the truth when pride wants to protect the image. The decision to invest when fear says hoard everything. The decision to prepare when laziness says just wing it. The decision to apologize when ego says defend. The decision to execute when procrastination says we'll do it later. The decision to raise your standard when your environment keeps rewarding average. This is where independence becomes practical. You cannot simply declare freedom. You have to decide your way into freedom. That is why one of the principles in the Affluent Negroes is educate yourself. Education is not only in degrees, certificate, books, and classes. Those things matter, but education is also the willingness to learn from every decision you make. A bound person repeats mistakes and calls it bad luck. A free person studies the pattern and changes the process. A bound person says, "This always happens to me." A free person asks, "What am I participating in that keeps producing this result?" That question will make you free, but only if you have the courage to answer it honestly. The second area where many people are bound is fear. Fear is one of the most expensive prisons in the world because it charges you in dreams. Fear will make you live smaller than your capacity. Fear will make you call hesitation wisdom. Fear will make you call hiding humility. Fear will make you call undercharging service. Fear will make you call silence strategy. Fear will make you call comfort peace. Fear does not always tell you don't do it. Sometimes fear says do it later. Sometimes fear says wait until you have more information. Sometimes it says you are not ready yet. Who do you think you are? What if they say no? And if you're not careful, fear will become your advisor. That's dangerous because fear will never give you instructions for freedom. Fear only gives instructions for survival. And survival is important in some seasons, but you are not created to build your whole life around survival. You were created to live, lead, build, serve, grow, and become. This is why I talk so much about courage in business and leadership. Courage does not mean you do not feel fear. Courage means fear does not get the final vote. You can be afraid and still make the call. You can be nervous and still make the investment. You can be uncertain and still take the next wise step. You can have butterflies and still walk into the room. You can have a shaky voice and still tell the truth. That is independence. And I want to speak especially to the high capacity professionals listening to this show. Some of you are not stuck because you lack talent. You are stuck because you have allowed fear to become more influential than your assignment. You know you are called to build more. You know you are called to lead more, to serve at a higher level. You know your current standard is beneath your real capacity, but you keep negotiating with fear. You keep asking fear for permission to become free. fear will never approve your expansion. At some point, you have to move with the fear in the car, but not with fear in the driver's seat. The third area where many people are bound is relationships. This is a heavy one because relationships can either be bridges to your future or chains to your past. And let me say this carefully. Everybody connected to you is not assigned to go with you. Everybody who knows your history does not have authority over your destiny. Everybody who has access to your phone does not deserve access to your spirit. Everybody who can reach you should not be able to drain you. Some people are not exhausted because life is too hard, but because their relationships are too heavy. They are carrying adults who refuse to grow. They are managing emotions that are not theirs to manage. They are staying loyal to people who are committed to misunderstanding them. They are trying to build a future while constantly defending themselves to people who benefit from their smallness. That is not freedom. That is bondage with familiar faces. One of the hardest forms of independence is relational independence. The ability to love people without being controlled by them. The ability to honor people without obeying their dysfunction. The ability to be kind without being available for manipulation. The ability to forgive without reopening the same door so that you can be hurt again. The ability to serve without becoming a savior. That takes maturity. And for leaders, coaches, business owners, entrepreneurs, and people with big assignments, this matters because your relationships influence your range. You cannot build a world-renowned life while giving unlimited access to single-minded voices. You need people around you who can challenge you, cover you, correct you, encourage you, and call you higher. That is networking strategically. In the Affluent Negroes, I talk about networking as more than exchanging business cards or collecting contacts. Strategic networking is about intentional association. Who has access to your thinking? Who influences your standards? Who helps you see bigger? Who tells you the truth? Who celebrates you without secretly resenting it? Who stretches your vision? Who makes excellence feel normal? Who makes mediocrity feel uncomfortable? That is the kind of network that helps you become free. Because independence does not mean isolation. Independence means you are no longer controlled by unhealthy dependence. There's a difference. You still need people. I need people. We all need community, counsel, friendship, accountability, partnership, and support. But needing people is not the same thing as being ruled by people. The fourth area where people are bound is money. I know this can get uncomfortable, but we have to talk about it because financial bondage is real. And some people are celebrating independence while their money is still in captivity. They are working hard, but they are not building wealth. They are earning, but not owning. They are spending, but not investing. They are consuming, but not creating. They are making more than they used to make, but still live with the same financial pressure because their appetite increased faster than their discipline. That is bondage. And let me be clear, money is not everything. But when you have no margin, no savings, no ownership, no plan, no discipline, and no ability to make strategic decisions because every dollar already has an emergency attached to it, you are not as free as you think. This is why generate wealth through entrepreneurship is such an important principle, ladies and gentlemen. Entrepreneurship is not only about starting a business. It is about creating value, solving problems, taking ownership, building assets, and producing in a way that expands your options. Freedom is connected to options. When you have no options, you are forced to accept terms you may not have chosen. When you have no options, you stay in rooms too long. When you have no options, you tolerate disrespect too long. When you have no options, you take bad deals. When you have no options, you say yes when your spirit is screaming no. Wealth, when understood correctly, is not about showing off. It is about stewardship, service, protection, generosity, legacy, and choice. That is why I want people to build wealth, not so they can act better than someone else, but so they can stop living at the mercy of every disruption. So they can bless their families, so they can fund ideas, so they can support causes, own property, so they can give generously, serve from overflow instead of exhaustion, so they can make decisions from wisdom instead of desperation. That is freedom. And for some of you, your next level of independence is going to require you to get honest about your money. Not emotional, honest. What are you earning? What are you keeping? What are you investing? What are you building? What are you wasting? What are you avoiding? What are you pretending not to know? Because freedom requires truth. The fifth area where many people are bound is identity. This may be the deepest one. Some people are not bound by circumstances. They are bound by who they believe they are. They have accepted a version of themselves that is too small for their assignment. They say things like, I'm just not good with money. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a leader. I'm not disciplined. I'm not ready. I'm not like those people. I don't belong in those rooms. I can never charge that. I can never build that. I can never lead at that level. And the more they say it, the more it becomes a cage. Words matter. Identity matters. Agreement matters. You cannot rise above an identity you keep reinforcing. So part of becoming free is changing what you agree with. You have to stop agreeing with every small thought that passes through your mind. You have to stop agreeing with every person who knew you before you grew. You have to stop agreeing with the version of you that was shaped by survival, but not designed for significance. There comes a point when you have to say, that was me, but that is not all of me. That was my season, but that is not my sentence. That was my mistake, but that is not my identity. That was my beginning, but that is not my conclusion. That is independence, family. And that connects to another principle from the Affluent Negroes: excel everywhere. Excellence is an identity before it is an action. You do excellent things because you have decided to become an excellent person. Not perfect, excellent. There's a difference. Perfection is about image. Excellence is about standard. Perfection is often rooted in fear. Excellence is rooted in stewardship. Perfection says, I do not want anyone to see me fall short. Excellence says, I want to honor the gift, the opportunity, the assignment, and the people I serve. When excellence becomes your identity, you begin to behave differently. You show up differently. You prepare differently. You communicate differently, dress differently, decide differently, recover differently. You serve differently. You stop asking, can I get away with this? And you start asking, does this reflect who I am becoming? That question will set you free. And that brings me to the final area I want to address today. Some people are bound by average. Average is a subtle prison because average rarely looks dangerous at first. Average says, this is enough. Average says, you are doing better than most. Average says, do not push too hard. Why does it have to be excellent? Nobody will notice. You can fix it later. Stay where people are comfortable with you. Average is not always failure. Sometimes average is success below capacity. That is why it is so dangerous. You can be applauded and still be underperforming your assignment. You can be respected and still know you are capable of more. You can be comfortable and still be called higher. And one of the great acts of independence is freeing yourself from the addiction to average. Because average will always have supporters. Average will always have company. Average will always have excuses. Average will always be easier to explain than excellence. But you were not created to be average. You were created to be world renowned in the place where God assigned you. That does not mean everyone has to know your name. It means your work should carry weight. Your presence should bring value. Your leadership should elevate rooms. Your service should leave people better. Your life should reflect intentionality. Your decisions should create legacy. Your name should mean something to the people that you are called to serve. That is why this show is called Beyond the Velvet Rope, because we are not just talking about getting into exclusive rooms. We are talking about becoming the kind of person who belongs in consequential rooms. We are talking about access, yes, but we are also talking about authority. And there is no real authority without self-government. If you cannot govern your emotions, success will expose you. If you cannot govern your money, increase will overwhelm you. If you cannot govern your relationships, influence will drain you. If you cannot govern your time, opportunity will pass you by. If you cannot govern your mind, fear will lead you. Freedom begins with self-leadership. So as we approach July 4th, I want you to celebrate. Enjoy the food, enjoy the fireworks, enjoy your family, enjoy the holiday. But do not let the holiday pass without having a personal independence conversation with yourself. Ask yourself, where am I still bound? What decisions keep costing me freedom? What relationship keeps pulling me backward? What fear keeps shrinking my obedience? What habit keeps sabotaging my future? What beliefs keep lowering my expectation? What area of my life needs ownership? What standard do I need to raise? What conversation do I need to have? What environment do I need to leave? What opportunities do I need to pursue? What excuse do I need to retire? And then I want you to write your own declaration, not a social media post for applause, a real declaration, a private declaration, a serious declaration. Something like, I declare independence from fear. I declare independence from procrastination. I declare independence from financial irresponsibility. I declare independence from relationships that require me to shrink. I declare independence from excuses. I declare independence from average. I declare independence from the belief that my past has more authority than my future. I declare independence from waiting for permission to become who God called me to be. And after you declare it, live it. Because declaration without discipline is just noise. You have to put structure behind it. You have to put decisions behind it. You have to put boundaries behind it, action behind it, accountability behind it, faith behind it. That is when independence becomes more than just an idea. It becomes a lifestyle. Before we close, let me give you a simple framework. Number one, identify the chain. Name the area where you are bound. Do not spiritualize it. Do not minimalize it. Do not decorate it. Name it. Number two, own your participation. Ask, what have I been doing, tolerating, avoiding, or believing that keeps this alive? Number three, make one freedom decision. Not 10, one. One serious decision that moves you towards independence. Number four, build a new standard. Freedom is protected by standards. If your standards do not change, your patterns will return. Number five, get in the right room. You need relationships, counsel, coaching, community, and accountability that support the person you are becoming, not the person you have been. That is how you begin. And that is also why I wrote The Affluent Negroes. I want people to stop living beneath their inheritance, beneath their intelligence, beneath their influence, their capacity, and beneath their calling. I want people to build wealth, but I also want them to build wisdom. I want people to gain access, but I also want them to develop character. I want people to become visible, but I also want them to become valuable. I want people to win, but I also want them to be free. Because winning while bound is still bondage. A bigger house does not make you free if fear still runs your life. A bigger title does not make you free if insecurity still makes your decisions. More money does not make you free if appetite still controls your spending. More attention does not make you free if approval still owns your identity. More access does not make you free if you still do not know who you are when you enter the room. Freedom is internal before it's external. So this July 4th, celebrate independence. But more than that, pursue it, build it, protect it, live it, and become the kind of person who does not just talk about freedom, but demonstrates it. If this episode challenged you, share it with someone who is ready to stop living bound. And if you have not picked up your copy of the Affluent Negroes, I want you to get it. Not just read it, but to work it. Let the principles challenge you. Let them confront you. Let them help you build a life marked by ownership, excellence, resilience, strategic relationships, service, entrepreneurship, and disciplined growth. You can find the link in the show notes along with the resources, the website, and ways to continue growing with us through world-renowned coaching. Freedom is available, but it is not automatic. You have to choose it. You have to build it. You have to become the kind of person who can carry it. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Velvet Rope. Remember, I love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time I see you or you see me, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.